It is time to engage. All right, we are back for the rematch of the grudge match of Star Trek versus the Orville. Oh, guys, this was a weird break, and the shows got like out of sync because the Orville started up a bit sooner, but Discovery kind of started up a bit sooner with these short treks. So we feel like let's just chuck a bunch of stuff in together to sync it all up. So what we're going to talk about in this episode is Discovery's short treks, all 4 of them, plus Brother, episode 1 of season 2, versus the Orville's Loja, Primal Urges, Home, and Nothing Left on Earth Excepting Fishes. So that gives us 5 plots of Discovery versus 4 plots of Orville. Seemed like kind of a fair fight. I don't know. We'll see how this goes. Vanya, Kat, let's get started.
You could say that they're multiverses.
Multiverses. I see
like
what
that.
you did there.
Yeah.
I like it.
I'm back, guys.
I like it.
So let's start talking about these short treks.
Okay.
There's 4 of them.
Yeah.
We could really quickly trek it or wreck these things since nobody really cared about making them.
These are very, very interesting student projects, independent film. What, no?
Oh my god.
Sorry.
Okay, this is hilarious because not even Netflix wanted these. The sad thing is CBS was like, oh, we got this big bunch of space between episode 1 and episode 2 and we really need people to keep subscribing to our thing. What are we gonna do? I know, short films. And so they said to Netflix, hey, $100 million, we'll just give you these 4 episodes. And Netflix was like, no, we don't want those.
Yeah.
It was like, well, how about 50 mil? We don't want those. Make this frigging show. And they're like, final offer, 40 mil. And we're like, oh, Christ, just make the stupid things, go. And so they got so much less money to make these short treks than they were hoping, as evidenced by the fact that it basically just shoots on the parts of the set that no one else was on at the moment.
You know,
Right,
I would have rather that they took everything together and made it like a really weird, interesting anthology episode.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That would have
that's
been
a really
really
good
cool
idea.
spin. And that would have been, I would have loved that because it was sort of, interesting okay, some of it was really weird. I don't know.
But I get what you mean by the anthology thing, and in the spirit of what Brian Fuller wanted to do anyway.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
So they could have done something like that.
Totally.
Yep.
But no.
So let's do a quick trekked it, wrecked it on each of these little short treks. Runaway.
I think it tracked it.
Really?
Yeah.
Explain. Tell me why.
I feel like it's in the spirit. If we're talking just in the spirit of Star Trek, I think it's in the spirit of Star Trek.
Okay.
It kind of reminded me of that Deep Space Nine episode where with O'Brien and the guy that's like being chased and hunted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah.
And it kind of gave me that sort of thing. And there's like a lesson learned and stuff like that. So
Okay.
I don't know. There's some modeling.
All right. I don't think it was good, but that's a very good point.
Yeah, I didn't say it was the best. All I'm saying is it's Star Trek.
Okay, Kat.
I thought she was adorable in it, except it really bothers me that they keep using her. They keep like giving her an assertive character arc, and then they keep taking it away, and then giving her giving a glimpse of like her being like vulnerable and goofy, and it's just it's reaching so hard. So
Yeah.
I was hoping to see her in like a different space. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Even for the
it's just
short.
same Tilly.
And I mean, it was a great story. It was cute. It was marketed to 12-year-olds. Like, I think my daughter would have loved it, and she's 9. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you know what?
It's a teen.
It was a very child-friendly episode.
Right, and I think, I can't help but wonder again, was this them just like doing a marketing, like testing demographic, it's a short, you know what I mean? I don't know.
I like to think that a show with deep, horrifying body horror and princesses aren't the same show.
Teen princesses. Teen princesses. Teen princess, rabbit squirrel, or whatever her name was. Sorry.
I think there's a middle ground between those two that we should be in if we're Star Trek.
Totally.
I agree with you about the family-friendly thing, and maybe that is what they should do because the show's not family-friendly.
Yeah, no.
Maybe their shorts, if they're going to do shorts again, maybe they should focus on the shorts being family-friendly.
Yeah, put them on Netflix Kids.
Yeah, exactly, and do it that way. And that would actually be
an interesting
valuable.
lead-in, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and we've got some animated Star Trek shows in the pipe already.
There you
so,
go. Yeah.
I mean, maybe save the princess stories there and make something for young tweens to enjoy Star Trek. Like, you need to make new Star Trek fans. That's a place.
Yeah, exactly.
Make them right there.
So I think that it's actually a good point, and maybe they should take advantage of that.
But in terms of, like, I think it wrecked it just because, honestly, she was, like, totally messing with the Prime Directive anyway. So, like, it was like,
That's a good point.
what part of that was
cool. Sorry, General Order 1.
exactly.
General
Come on, let's just get to it.
Yeah.
All right, speaking of getting to it, Calypso.
What was that movie?
I enjoyed it so much, but it is not Star Trek. There's a beautiful Scandinavian film that came out this year called Aniara. And it felt like Aniara, this like derelict ghost ship. And it was just a beautiful episode of science fiction, but it is in no way an episode of Star Trek.
No, yeah, I agree. I was kind of interested. Why in 1,000 years? You know, the whys that kind of hooked me. But at the same time, and I loved the character development. If there was, again, good story, but I didn't.
Doesn't feel like Star Trek.
No,
sorry.
Not Star Trek.
Ooh.
Yeah. So that's the Now, brightest star. I gotta say, at the very beginning of this, I was like, oh. This is just a Prime Directive disaster.
It is. That's exactly what I said the entire time.
Yeah,
the whole time.
And then at the end of it, they're like, okay, Michelle Yeoh's gonna find some explanation why this thing that can't ever happen in Star Trek is gonna happen in Star Trek. That's the problem with this whole show. But I feel like as beautiful a experience of Doug Jones it was, it was awful Star Trek again. It is their I don't know, Achilles heel. They're always trying to bend things to their will, like that are canon. They're trying to shape it to whatever they're trying to do. And that's always going to be their problem unless they just kind of try and if they just followed what the canon was, then they would have more success. Yeah, subvert expectations within what Star Trek is. Don't subvert the expectations of what Star Trek is.
The thing is, origin stories are always are the Achilles heel of so many things, even outside of Star Trek, right? It's always that like, okay, you know, really, do you buy that? But when you don't even question it, like, you know what I mean? Like they just same thing. They didn't stick to canon. They just sort of appropriated a cool story to. I just felt like my time was being my time was being bought. That's what it kind of felt like. My mind share was being bought. So, do you want to go into Escape Artist? Yeah. So, not only did Rainn Wilson star in this, he directed it. Yeah. Trek to Wrecked. What do we think? Oh, I think it wrecked it. I do too. Because you know how hard that is for me to say, but it is a positronic android. Oh yeah. And I didn't even. So now apparently Noonien Sung just decided it would be fun to make androids that aren't as good as the ones that were out 100 years ago. Yeah. Like, sure, the brain part of Data is the impressive part, and this thing that Mudd made or bought or whatever is not as complex as Data's brain. But the fact that the rest of the guts, the rest of the believability, that was interesting. I found this episode really that episode's very frustrating. Yeah. I thought it was very sort of narcissistic. I had to watch it's only 15 minutes. I had to watch it in 2 parts because I was just like so annoyed. Oh, is this how they got Rainn Wilson into the show? Is it the longest one too? I think it was actually the longest. Why did it feel like an hour? I don't know, man. It was funny. Like some of it, you know, I did have the moments, but it felt again calculated. And I think that was the whole problem with it. I just wanted it to be Star Trek, and it wasn't. And when you go in having an expectation, you know, and it's not a high expectation, guys. No, it's a short film. Yeah. Disappointing. So in general, what are we going to give the short treks? I'm reckoning, guys. I'm reckoning. Too many flaws. I would have rather if it was an anthology and it was just like random, you know what I mean? Different spin on the way they came together. I might have had a different opinion. But they had no direction, and what direction they had was not Star Trek. Yeah. Okay. I'm glad we're in agreement on that. Now, let's move on to some Orville. Now, guys, I gotta say, I almost didn't want to do Trek It or Wreck It again this year because Discovery made me so unhappy. I was so disappointed in what Discovery was, but the thing that moved me forward was that the Orville
was good, man, and it was trying something that was familiar and yet also new. And this like tonal thing that they're trying to jockey between. And I don't know if they're going to ever get it right. They're playing with it. Every now and again it works. Every now and again it doesn't. But now we're going to get to talk about Loja, Primal Urges, Home, and let's save Nothing Left on Earth Excepting Fishes for a little bit. Okay. So, Loja, the Ponfar P episode.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
It felt pretty Trekky to me because we were like diving right into what the idea of Ponfar was and then giving us something totally Bortus about it. I mean, it was like a throwaway line in the first episode and now it gets an episode entirely devoted to it.
Yes. I like the idea that it kind of was that, because he has to do something that's more humor based than what Spock goes through. But I am always wary of when they're doing the Bortus thing, because I'm just like, Bortus again? You know what I mean? Because they're so mysterious. Right. We're just gonna, pile on all the stuff that's mysterious on it. Yeah. And I'm wary of that. But I thought it was kind of like another pilot.
Yeah.
Because he was less like, these are who these people are. This is what they're like really quick. You know what I mean? So if you didn't watch last season, now you know who these people are really fast. And now you can start
for our expanding audience.
And
for people who hated Discovery and are now watching Orville.
Yeah.
But I did think that was really smart, because it's just kind of like, oh, everybody's, they found a pocket for everybody where you kind of learn something about them from last season, which is cool.
And it was neat that they introduced this new stellar cartographer in that episode, because she was going to have an interesting arc. Now, you may notice that she was not in the next episode at all. You may also notice that Primal Urges had like a very friendly relationship between Kelly and Ed. That's because that episode is not from season 2. That episode is from season 1.
Oh, of course.
Right? Doesn't it all make sense now? It was supposed to be. Yeah, it was going to be that final episode that was going to be a part of that. And like the costumes are a little bunchy and weird, which was season 1.
Yeah, I thought
right?
It was me.
Me too. I was just like, I'm some ill-fitting stuff there.
And because the weird thing for having 2 Bortus episodes in a row, they really should have been in this order. Where he's pent up and there's something crazy about him. He's having a hard time and he's going into this. And then
I felt like that placement was
I thought it was very strange too.
Yes.
And I thought, again, same thing of like, this is a really weird Bortus arc.
I literally said, Bortus again?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? When I started watching it, I was like, again? But I understand why they needed to kind of squish it in there. I mean, it's not great.
And that's a Fox-imposed choice that the team had to work with one way or another. And this is what they came up with. And I feel like my headcanon will always have those episodes switched where Bortus is pent up. And honestly, a weirdly, beautifully sensitive discussion of porn addiction happens.
Yeah. I was really, really impressed with the way they handled that.
Yeah.
I mean, and also even just like the fact that he was that resentment that came up between him and what's his
Clyden.
Because it was so serious.
It was so serious and so deep seated and deep rooted, and it was really, really interesting that people usually, I guess, look at addictions like that as so surface.
Yeah.
Yes. And it was very, very I was very moved by that. That moment was a big moment.
I feel like they're kind of, I don't know. I feel like the show is actually more drama than comedy, and that sometimes the comedy actually like takes you out, like where they drop it in takes you out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like they're trying to find that balance of comedy and always like you said, like Norman Lear shows where they're like if you look at Archie Bunker, it's hilarious, right? But it's also like super serious political stuff, which is exactly what Orville's trying to do, which is a Star Trek thing, but then to add the comedy.
And to be willing to take on something that's more than just porn addiction. The porn that they were showing Fox audiences is gay porn. Like,
that's right.
It just gets more difficult, and the Orville took it on. And I gotta say, I was really impressed with this episode. It is everything that I want out of Star Trek, and I love that it's the kind of episode that makes me want to do a show like this. Because I loved this so deeply. And then there's like potty humor here and there, but I enjoy it. It like the whole thing worked for me. What about you guys?
Yeah, it was really good. again, that moment for me, like, and you're exactly right. It goes from like the comedy to the drama, and then the acting even is just they have these moments as actors too, which I find really, really special. And the writing really shines at times like that, because the ability to take that poignant social issue and not only make it sci-fi, but also like that just addressed so much. It's huge. It's so hard to talk. Yeah, exactly. Remember that porn addiction episode? Like, who ever thought that? And you're right. The Fox audience. I didn't think of it from that standpoint. That's
pretty cool.
When I did see that episode, though, I did think, Discovery gets some flack for not being a family Star Trek show, but I mean, neither is Orville.
Not in that moment, that's for sure.
So I'm just kind of like, okay, now we can kind of put them on par in that way, at least. Neither of them are really family-oriented shows.
But to be fair, though, I mean, Orville still addressed the family dynamic. They had Topa sitting there looking at the dynamic of his parents fighting, and like trying to kind of cope with that. So it does open that up, and the conversation is relevant to teenagers and younger teens.
And I'd argue that it lands in a PG-13 space.
I do too.
It deals with mature themes.
Yes.
But there's no, like, there was not a lot of anything that would dip you into, like, hard R.
Right.
And so, Discovery sort of weaving in between PG princesses and hard R body horror.
Oh my gosh.
It's
I
guess the vastness. I would agree. The vastness of the stretch is bigger, but it definitely is. Like when I started watching TNG, I was 8 years old.
Right.
So you know what I mean. I don't know. I'm from the 80s. I'm a kid from the 80s. I was allowed to watch everything.
Yeah.
But I don't think most of my friends' parents, not me, but would be able to watch that episode of Orville. Yeah. Is what I'm saying. It's just what I mean. They would have to be a little bit older.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So would we say that episode tracked it or wrecked it?
I would say, I think it's hard. I do think at the end it tracked it for me. I think it tracked it.
Benny?
Yeah, it tracked it for me too. I mean, the sacrifices alone that everybody was making, the sacrifice that Borges talks about with his child, then the people on the planet.
No, I bawled my eyes out. I bawled like a little baby. Like I could not stop crying. Like he was looking at me like, are you okay? Because I couldn't, it was one of those things even afterwards. I was like, it just really got me that, and...
I think those choices and being leadership, and those are all very Star Trek things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it tracked it for me.
Nice. Me too.
Yep.
Trekked across the board. Good work, guys. So let's move into Home, which is fascinating to me because, generally speaking, it seems the little white female security doesn't usually make it past season 1. In TNG, wiped out.
Yeah. Wow.
But here, at least she gets to go home. Apparently, Halston Sage just had other things to shoot, wanted to go shoot them, but Fox has not released specifically why she left. So I find that fascinating, that that Alara is just off the show but could come back, which is not something you would have expected Tasha Yar to do.
Right. No, yeah.
But she came back several ways.
Because I think she realized it was a mistake for her.
Yeah, bad career move, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, it really worked out for Michael Dorn.
Yeah.
So good work. So let's talk about Home. This idea of, what saying goodbye to a character is like on the Orville.
For me, I have a totally different take on it, just because somebody with mobility and accessibility issues. I looked at it from a chronic illness standpoint as well, because you can't help it. Like you're born that way, or something happens to you, and that feeling of you're kind of like you're doing what you want to be doing, it's the love of your life, and all of a sudden you can't do it anymore. And then having to adapt to, other people's criticisms and family dynamics and stuff. So I have like a totally different lens.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, I cried. I'm not going to lie. A couple times I was just like frustrated for her, and I really related to it. But at the same time, I also loved that she chose to go. First she went back, and then she was like, no, I have a different path, And I love that she owned that, because it's very, very hard to do. So I think they did, in terms of like the device of like having her exit that way was very, very, it was a wonderfully empowering kind of thing to do. I love that they chose to show this aspect of it, and the family part made me cry.
Yeah.
Robert Picardo, like, oh my god.
It was so good to have the doctor back.
Yeah, and
Fox, like,
double doctor.
Yeah,
doctor.
it was nice. It was
He
nice.
was scary. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
He was that thing with the
really
hand. Oh
That
my
got dark.
gosh, he was so
very
creepy.
scary.
I was not used to. We were like rewatching Enterprise. It's like one of our like just random in the background things.
A lovely
So
Dr.
I'm
Phlox is.
Yes, I love him. And then
With the like CGI enhanced smile. He smiles so much a human couldn't even do it. And then he's this.
yeah,
It was
and
fascinating.
it's really, really dark. That
Yeah.
was so dark. And I also didn't expect them to like talk about like suicide and like family pressure. That whole concept of like family pressure on children and the way they react.
And the
anti-vax story.
that political thing that
Yeah.
we're dealing with right
Right
now,
now,
like
yeah.
so heavily. Oh man, I was not ready for that.
I wasn't either.
Yeah.
I really wasn't.
It was fascinating to see how they handled the anti-vax situation because I thought it was a little clumsy that they like through sheer talking we are going to get to this plot
Yes.
and then
Yeah.
I mean,
It's not revealed that like
it wasn't peeled
creative,
back quickly.
right.
It was in one scene. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, you've gone from being a lovely house guest to my son is an anti-vaxxer.
It did feel a little attached to other themes that were more prevalent for the episode. Like I don't even know if you needed it to be that.
Yeah, I
That
don't know.
specific,
Yeah.
that specific thing, because it's now like this big. You could do a whole episode just on that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the
You
thing that
know?
we would have benefited from is if the anti-vax story was not a diatribe in a scene, but an episode where we deal with the sort of issues that pseudoscience and bad science and incorrect science that is held up winds up really screwing over an entire population.
We don't know. Maybe it was a whole episode, and maybe they were cut down, and they wanted to desperately just like address that theme somehow, or save it. But I agree. I feel like it was like they were trying to be too clever almost. And what started out, I thought which was just going to be like it would have been enough to have a hostage situation, and have Alara save them.
Yeah, because I feel like. You're right, because of where it is in the episode too, how it's revealed, what it is. There's no link to the beginning of the episode about the anti-vax thing. You know what I mean? So if something had to do with her health that was connected to the anti-vax thing, and then
that inoculation,
that would have been fascinating.
and then it was also something her father did it, that would have been like
mind blowing.
Yeah, because it would have all tied it together. Just rewriting the episode.
Yeah, that's
Monday morning quarterbacking and all. That's all.
You know what? It just reminded me. It popped into my head. There was a TNG episode where Worf has his back.
Yep.
Remember he breaks
Yeah.
the that. I just popped into my head like that was similar. Him learning to do
sure,
that.
absolutely.
And
And that security guard who feels like she no longer or he no longer has the what it takes to do the job.
Yeah.
And is losing that lease on the career. You know, what winds up happening with Worf brings him back into the fold, but in this case maybe Alara will come back.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we've certainly got a pretty hilarious actor with that wicked snout thing.
Oh my gosh!
Like
that
the just pound food.
And his
I
hilarious.
adore that actor so much.
Patrick Orville.
Yeah. Oh my God. Ever since the live Tick show back in the day.
Yeah, and Seinfeld.
Yeah.
And he's just
So funny.
I love his language.
Yeah.
Like it's so like super casual.
Yeah. Sick. Yeah.
It's very funny.
Yeah, super enjoyable. So hopefully we get to see more of that character.
Yeah.
So let's decide whether that puppy trekked it or wrecked it. What do we think?
I'll go this way. I think it tracked it.
Okay.
Orville is really killing it. Like it's I feel like it's really tight, you know? Like even though there are things that we're saying that are, flaws in the
episode itself.
obviously there's always going to be, but to me it tracked it. It had all the elements that you need, for Star Trek in my opinion. Growth, maturity, people having to make decisions. Like it's just all the things.
Nice. Kat?
Yeah, I think, it just, as I said, like, it reminds me of you said Tasha Yar leaving, and even just, like, Worf, and even, oh my gosh, there was the Troy episode where she loses her empathy.
Yeah.
And I really feel like there was something else, anyways, but it's okay, it'll come to me.
Well, those challenges, I feel like those challenges.
So I think that I'm gonna say it tracked it. But I will also footnote that theme did distract me, and it almost gave me a different verdict.
Yeah, it was heavy-handed, and I felt it didn't benefit the episode, but it didn't make it bad Star Trek.
Right,
It was
yeah.
still.
Exactly.
It didn't make it great TV.
Right.
Sure.
But it was still Star Trek. It felt like Star Trek. It had that heart. It had everything that makes Star Trek feel like Star Trek. So
I
it
now
checked it for me too.
Yeah, and
I now know why. Sorry, I now know why the episode when she leaves, I wasn't connected as I didn't get sad like when Tasha died. I don't think she had to die for me to feel that. I just feel like I was disconnected, and it might be because the other storyline. I got taken out for a
Yes,
minute,
that's-
and I couldn't get right back in again. So
Makes sense.
Yeah, I wasn't weepy, and I'm pretty
Fair.
easy
And
to
Alara's
cry.
a lovely character. But yeah, I
thought she was
didn't
sweet.
get that weepy either. Maybe because it didn't have finality to it, and maybe she'll be back, but I'm not sure what it was. So now that we've managed to sync up the shows, let's get into 2 episodes that aired, at least in Canada, on the same night.
Oh my gosh.
Like on 2 competing channels. It's weird. Most people are watching Star Trek Discovery on CBS All Access or Netflix, but in Canada, it's just on actual TV. So if you're pirating the show, you're probably getting a Canadian feed. Heads up. You're welcome, I guess? I don't know. So let's talk about Brother versus Nothing Left on Earth Excepting Fishes. Because these 2 episodes were competing head-to-head. In something that wasn't happening last season. Last season, there were days between these episodes.
Yeah.
But now, some guy decided, let's program these against each other. I don't know, man. Were they watching Trek It or Wreck It? And like, hey, we can
Yeah.
stand up to...
Ooh.
Maybe they were.
Maybe.
Yes. It's all because of your show,
Right? It's probably because of you guys, honestly. It's not me. So let's talk about Brother. I gotta say, diving right into the Cassini footage at the beginning of Brother made me think, ooh, are we getting like an Enterprise-style new opening? She said Space the Final Frontier. And then it's like swept out from under you, and it's just like this artistic opening to the show.
Man, I was like, why are they going all Black Panther on this? Like, it was like this really interesting, and it was not that, I love that, but it was just really interesting, that whole like, this really weird, like, mythological legend thing, and the same style of animation. I'm just saying this because we literally watch it like 5 times with the kids because it's their favorite movie. But so it's, you know what I mean? I was kind of like, are they trying, again, my marketing brain kicks in and I'm like, are they just trying a new angle? Because if so, that sucks. That's where my brain went.
Oh, I was so disappointed when she started the speech, and then it wasn't that.
It wasn't that.
I was just like, oh man, why did she do that? Because I actually went, oh, it's happening. She gets to do it too. How cool is that?
Here's the thing too. This has also really bothered me on a weird level, where I thought same thing. I thought, finally, is she going to be the main character, not the narrative character, but the main character in power? And then all of a sudden, even with that story, it was like she's this she's like identifying with the mythological kind of character that doesn't own her own power, but is just magically kind of put there. Do you know what I mean? I can't explain it. It just bothered me in that sense, where I want to see women own their power in the show, and I like that in that first episode we do see a little bit more of like bridge crew interacting, and Detmer and all those people.
And there are a lot of neat women on that that crew, which is great.
Yeah.
But I wanted Michael Burnham to be
God,
not just
what
a
missed opportunity.
sidekick.
Right? Well, I mean, I gotta say, on the bridge, having a full head of hair on a white man sitting on the chair, nothing brings me back to the 50s quite like... the 2250s. Quite like that image. And I feel like I really adored Anson Mount. In this, he walks in and owns every single scene in this charismatic but like gentle but like you don't want to say no to him kind of way. And I want them to write a female character with that kind of ease of power, because Michelle Yeoh is like knocked out, wakes up, wants to shoot somebody, gets killed,
rigid,
like, all this rigid shit. And then you got this beautiful cowboy character that Anson Mount, who I have never liked in anything before, is so wonderful in Discovery as Pike.
He's playing. I must admit, like, he's not playing like original Pike. He's playing Bruce Greenwood Pike.
But he's better than Bruce. Like,
no, I'm saying but he's pulling from that essence of like, hey, I'm kind of a cool guy and I understand things.
I may have great
You know what I mean?
I like your Bruce Greenwood Pike voice.
Do you like that? And yeah,
well, and the funny thing is, Bruce Greenwood's Canadian, so if they wanted to keep their tax credits up shooting in Canada, they could have just paid that guy enough money and he could have piked over here. But I'm pleased with Anson Mount. I feel like he's a really cool choice. I want him to go back to the Enterprise so that someone who should be in charge of Discovery is in charge of it. I think it's a really weird choice that he just broke that ship, so they're giving him a new ship.
It's like, that was very odd.
You just busted the Enterprise?
I know.
And so that ship's not expensive enough. We're going to give you this newer, more expensive ship to break?
You know what I kept thinking when they came over? I kept thinking they broke it and they knew they messed up and they were like, shh. And then they were like, and then it was just like, where's Spock? He's just like in the brig. I kept thinking before you find out where he is, I was just like, they were like, he's in the brig. How do we tell her he's in the brig? You know what I mean? Like we messed everything up.
And isn't Rebecca Romaine playing number 1? So, like, she's the one who has to be on this ship as it gets hauled back to dry dock to get fixed? Leave it to the woman to handle the problem while the man just gets the hell out?
Come on.
I don't know. Seems a little weird. Now, what do you think about the new uniforms that we got to see?
I like them.
It was nice to see the gold.
Yeah, the gold was nice.
It's like in the vein of what they're wearing, like the same, like,
but slightly
but like nicer. I love it.
It feels like a huge apology for the marching band outfit. I like it. I like the apology, and apology accepted. Continue wearing those outfits because it's way better.
Not the space lammy.
Oh my god.
I like the marching band outfit.
Fair.
I like it.
You have a very good point. Let's talk about the Power Ranger outfits that they wear for their Kurtzman episodes. But let's back it up to like a larger aspect of the fact that Alex Kurtzman is now the dude in charge of this show. Did you notice that the letterboxing got way more aggressive? We are now looking at a CinemaScope widescreen TV show. TVs aren't built like that, Alex. TVs are 16:9. No one's watching this on the this is the guy who wrote JJ verse Star Trek movies. He's making JJ verse Star Trek movies into a TV show, but the problem is Star Trek movies are a bad adaptation of a great show. So he is now taking a great show that was adapted badly into movies, that was adapted even worse into another TV show. Kurtzman is not the man for this job.
I mean, Discovery was hard enough to kind of see originally in the first season. It was very dark. We had the football field, bridge, which is still there, and now it's not.
It's not doing it for me. That widescreen doesn't need to happen.
I will say you're right about Anson Mount though, because he's like owning that space.
Yes.
Like it's weird. His like presence is like making it small, like cozier.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
I did really enjoy. Actually, what's funny is that he reminds me of Janeway in a weird way, which is so funny. I don't know why.
Is it the poof in the hair?
It's the poof, definitely. It's absolutely no, but just like as you were saying, like that nice confidence, that like kind of like firm and yet really approachable.
Yeah,
really like
to walk onto a ship after having just busted the Enterprise and still be that confident.
Ballsy.
Yeah, man, that takes a lot of balls.
That's giving me a bit of Cisco.
Yeah.
Like, I'm feeling Cisco.
Yep.
Totally right.
Sorry, man, I just blew up the Defiant. What do you need Defiant? Just a new one of these impossible ships to make. Yeah.
I like that he calls it like, we're going to have like a, it's like co-piloting or what is it, co-captain? Or
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't really know yet, but like, I'm also captain, so whatever. Saru. Poor Saru.
Oh, Saru.
Okay, has anyone noticed that Saru got super nice? He was just like,
he was
really
lovely in this episode.
He's been very
I love his walk is always so nice.
Yeah,
and then
his antenna, that was really cute.
What, are you surprised?
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think it does make sense because in season 1 he's stressed all the time. Like season 1 is like a stress fest, especially for somebody from his like species, right? So it does make sense. He's like, okay, like I can take a little bit of a step back, like that he's more relaxed. It does make sense.
Yeah.
And I really feel like we're looking at a quick attempt to reset a show where they had no freaking clue what they were going to do at the end. Because Brian Fuller wrote a show that was going to be X number of episodes in season 1 and then it's finished and we will never see those people again. And so now they are desperately trying to figure out what to do with a ship we're familiar with no captain, and they showed us the Enterprise. What now? Like, none of this seems planned. It all seems like they're making it up as they go along.
You're really right, because there is that weird cross point where we know the Enterprise is there, we know Discovery, and then the Hiawatha too, right? Which is sort of that interesting. By the way, can I just say I love that amazing engineer that they meet who's keeping everyone alive. She is
Tig was really fun in this.
I love her character. I want her to be in everything. I just love the way she's just such like a Renaissance
entrance
or whatever.
Was beautiful.
Was
Chef's kiss good.
So cool. So good, right?
Yeah, she nailed it. They really gave her a good
A lot to
present.
work with.
They
It was
had
really
a
good.
lot, and she really
And for
took
someone
it
who's
there.
not really known as an actor. This
No,
is a
yeah,
she's
a
amazing.
stand-up comedian. This
Yeah.
is
I
like
didn't even know that.
Yeah.
I just thought, wow, first of all, she's so natural.
Yep.
I love how I absolutely believe that she's capable of doing all these things, and her modesty, you know what I mean? Just the
Yeah.
downplay it. Oh my god, she was just incredible. I loved
Yeah.
her.
Now, what do we think of the blatant Kurtzman ripoff of a JJ verse? Let's fire some stuff out of the ship with one person in each one. Let's see how they do.
Oh, the pod racing weird thing?
Was it pod racing?
Gosh,
Was it that scene from Into Darkness where they
Yes,
get
yes,
fired?
yes.
Like, Kurtzman, we have seen this, and it was made by someone else already, and it was also called Star Trek. Like, you're not fooling anyone, and you're not convincing anyone either.
Maybe we're just trying to...
that was a little
But the
frustrating.
lame, right?
The lame, and also that lovely like pan out overhead shot of them walking in like it was like a 1989 music video. Like,
It was such an 80s music video.
Gorgeous.
Or they were Power Rangers. I don't know.
Power
I could not
Rangers,
think about. I could not stop thinking. There's a way to save money because it's Star Trek. Let's do this a different way. Like if you're worried about money, don't do this kind of thing because it's
Yeah.
not necessary, and we can still play. I wish they would. In those moments, not all the time, but I wish that in those moments they would be like, oh, how can we make this about the people? You know what I mean? And not about those times they need to make it
spectacle.
about, the spectacle.
But
yeah.
Kurtzman does spectacle. Have you seen The Mummy? Like, the guy just does he writes spectacle, he directs spectacle. I don't know that he cares about characters. And I think if it wasn't for Anson Mount being so charming, I don't know that character would have worked at all.
Yeah. What I
really
really
risky,
liked, I did like the way that they. There was a lot of like kind of exposition, I guess, in that where they're setting up the to beam everybody back up.
Yeah,
and,
you could
and
feel the crank. They were cranking that wheel.
They really were, and then also, but it was just such a like, here is where we are going to build trust between these characters,
Yeah.
you know. But I really, again, he managed to keep that simpatico, you know, and I really believed it when Michael Burnham gets like, you know, the door closes and she's
Yeah.
slammed there,
Yeah.
and he's
Yeah.
like, oh, and you're like, you actually believe
Yeah.
that they have this connection, that he's a real team, you know, that he's gonna. I don't know. I really liked that. I thought that was interesting, and that the spectacle came second there. Do you know what
Yes,
I mean?
Yeah.
I agree with that. That's when they kind of swept that away.
Right,
Like when we
yeah.
got down to the people, and you see somebody who is a captain, who is even though he's not close to them yet, has responsibility, takes
Like
on that
Kirk,
responsibility
yeah,
for people
or-
immediately.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, where like I thought that was really well done. You're so right. Like it kind of all the other stuff went away. It's like just get to that.
Now, what do we think about the like season building mystique of these like 7
And
flashes of light and
what
the
that thing
red
she
angel
saw, yes,
thing?
yeah. I'm not sure what to think of it. It kind of jogged my memory about like, you know, things for the original series, or if there was something there, or if there was something in TNG, and I'm still trying to put my finger on it.
There's a little bit of Star Trek: The Motion Picture in the like design of the Vulcan home. Like there's certain elements that feel reminiscent, which I
Yes.
like. But I feel like we're really looking at a show that is trying desperately to reboot itself almost entirely. But they're using someone else's captain. So when are they going to have an actual captain of their own? Because that's when the show gets to start.
Yeah.
So far, this show
Yeah.
hasn't started. It started with Michelle Yeoh, and then it ended. Then it started again with Lorca. Then it ended.
Yeah.
Then it started again with maybe Saru's going to be in charge. Then we're going to go pick up our captain on Vulcan. He's still there.
Yeah.
Or she or it is still there. Like, where's Discovery? And Pike totally hijacked her command.
But that's why I feel like I kept getting this like. Is this like a defense against the dark arts situation where every season like something's
Just
gonna happen?
keep killing them.
Eventually he's gonna betray them, and then and then we're be screwed again. Like he really did do something to Spock, and he really did do something to the Enterprise, and now we're like next season we're gonna have a new captain.
And it just feels like they keep writing themselves into a new corner, and then they need to write themselves into a new corner to make up for that problem. And it's like, guys, give us a captain. Let the captain be the captain of the ship. You've built your team. Go forth.
Maybe they're bringing
discover.
the anthology thing to the captain thing. The thing that Fuller wanted, and they're like, every season, new captain. And
Burnham
Michael Burnham
is
has to
just
like,
cursed.
she's just like, finally I can behave, and now I have to deal with another traitor.
Man.
You know?
Discovery, highest turnover rate ever.
Right? Oh my god, do not accept that captaincy.
No.
You're going to get killed. So let's now try to get ourselves through this whole, like, Vogue storyline that the Orville managed to do. And I feel like they almost said, oh yeah, we can do that. And they did it, I'm going to say way better. They did it way better than they did on Discovery. They give you a fascinating character that connects with the captain, and then that's it. They leave it for an entire, like half of a season, and then the entire break, and then when they brought that actor in, I wasn't even thinking about it.
Right.
And I had literally seen exactly the same story play out on Discovery. I was not expecting it at all. And then it got us. It got me. Did it get you?
Yeah, it did. I
Got
mean,
me.
it was. Yes, it did. It did.
So the gotcha bit worked, and it didn't feel like they were cranking the wheel.
Especially because they went so far as to show her being tortured. And that for me was kind of interesting. Like I was like, how far are they going to go? And I caught myself thinking, well, what's the storyline going to be? How are they going to get out of this? Where is the now it's him versus him giving the codes, right? That's going to be the sort of that Star Trek kind of element to this, But no, and then she was Vogue, but not.
What did you? Did it get you?
It tricked me. Like I got pulled in. I think why it was executed better is because it was quicker, right? With the Vogue thing, it's like. Remember we talked about last season how all the mysteries were like revealed too late?
Yeah.
It's like it was dragged out so long that, I mean, you should expect that Star Trek viewers are sophisticated enough television viewers that we're going to figure it out. So it's like we figure it out and then it's revealed and we're like too late, you know what I mean? So it has no impact, where this was just like, okay, we don't know who it is, boom, like really fast. And I think that's why they were more successful, probably.
Yeah, and it was a great Ed episode as well.
It really was.
And I mean, the Billy Joel certainly worked nicely.
Music has been a really interesting, I'll talk about this later, but music has been a very interesting theme throughout the entire series, like all the episodes.
It really has.
But the one thing that I loved about this episode was that instead of them flashing over to like the body gore and the blood and the we remodeled him kind of a thing, they just said in one, she was just like, transcellular grafting.
Yeah, it hurt, but here I am.
It was like one line, and you totally, as you said, like made it totally relatable. Like why couldn't they just do this?
Yeah,
I did. I thought that. It was super quick, and then I feel like it's interesting. It's a great episode because I keep thinking, wow, Kelly Grayson is a way better captain than Ed. So you kind of needed this episode to be like Ed's a really creative, great leader, because Kelly's so good.
So much more competent.
If it was Star Trek, Kelly would be the captain, right? Yeah. And if it was all mostly serious, then Kelly would be the captain.
And the one big difference on Discovery's bridge that I like is that Captain and First Officer just sit right beside each other. Neither chair is bigger, neither chair is centered. It's just like we're the people in charge of the ship.
Yeah.
And it looks equal. And I appreciate that kind of equality.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to get into it. There are a lot of episodes here, but let's talk about Brother versus Fishes. Trekking it and wrecking it. Kat, what do you think about Brother? Trekked it? Wrecked it?
Oh, for me it wrecked it.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah. So it didn't have the heart of Star Trek for you?
It was a great re-entry. It was great sci-fi. It was lovely action. It was new JJ for me.
Yep.
And so for me, because of that, even though Pike brought a little bit of soul back, I still have to say it wrecked it.
Daniel?
I'm going to say it trekked it.
Okay.
My stance is generally like, I feel like it had all the elements that it needed to be a Star Trek episode. I thought it was a really pretty good, it gave me some optimism about what the season could do going forward. And so I feel like it tracked it. I feel like Pike obviously is a great addition, and Tig Notaro is also good. I thought Stamets was like, his storyline too was good, and how Tilly, you know, him and Tilly's connection was quite Star Trek.
I've got to say, it felt a lot like a Star Trek movie, which tend to be terrible. So it wrecked it for me. It was like, Kurtzman is making a Star Trek movie, and those aren't good Star Trek. There are cool action movies starring the characters we love, but we don't love these characters enough for you to get away with that. Nope. Did not track it for me. So, fishes. Did fishes track it for you, Kat?
Okay, so here's the thing. As much as I want to say it tracked it, for me it totally wrecked it.
Why?
You know why? It comes down to one thing. No captain would have ever just surrendered those codes.
But they weren't the codes.
I know, but it doesn't matter. Like, for me, it just kind of came down to, like, you look at Picard and the Cardassians, and
there are 4 lights,
thank you very much. And the fact is that I was hoping that I wanted it to be about the captain's integrity and about the struggle between his love life and the crew, and what to do, and the power of doing the sacrifice. And it really wasn't.
No,
it wasn't, and it was a great thing, but it kind of just started reminding me of Enemy Mine after a while,
totally,
which I love,
But that's not Star Trek either.
That's not Star Trek either. So as much as I liked the story, and I thought it was a great episode, and I thought it was a really funny nod to that obvious, like, Vok Sana or whatever, the take on it, I'm going to say it wrecked it for me.
Vanya?
It tracked it.
All right.
It tracked it for me because because of the Enemy Mine stuff. It reminded me of the episode Geordi and the Romulan. And I felt like he did make big decisions, about her in the end. He's thinking. I like the idea that he's thinking to the future about how he could manage the relationship between them and the Krill. So to me, it tracked it.
Oh man, I honestly have to say it is a difficult choice for me.
Yeah.
And I don't always love the Orville, and I don't always hate Discovery, but I think it tracked it because it does. It's better than Discovery, which I know is a low bar, but it's a better version of that story than Discovery, and I find that, like, making fun of something is a pretty good way to my heart, but especially if it's something I don't like. But yeah, it's that optimism that does it for me. That feeling that Ed still believes that there's a relationship that can be salvaged, even though these are a people who have gone out into the universe and reverted into xenophobia. I just feel like it plays with themes in a beautiful way, and it shows the optimism that is in the Planetary Union. And for me, that's Star Trek.
Yeah.
That's what I gotta say about that. And guys, we just caught up Orville to Discovery, which means from here on out, we get to do one episode versus one episode until there's like weird, I don't know, hiatuses or Super Bowls or whatever. But I enjoyed this immensely. I'm happy we're back, and we are going to trek it and wreck it again next week.